We are excited to have you join us for our second episode of TAP Talk. We are pleased to welcome PAYS, U.S. Army Partnership for Your Success, with us today. PAYS is a strategic partnership between the U.S. Army and cross-sections of corporations, companies, and public sector agencies. Before we begin, don't forget to follow us on all of our social media sites for a wealth of information, job opportunities, hiring events, and tips on how to succeed in your job search. Let's begin our second episode of TAP Talk by introducing Antonio Johnson, the program manager for PAYS. Sit back, relax, and learn how TAP can help you.
Hey, good afternoon. This is a great day. I'm so excited to have my good friend Antonio Johnson here online with us. He's at Fort Eustis, Virginia, and really excited to have you here, Antonio, to talk to us about PAYS, Partnership in Your Success. So Antonio's an old soldier, been around the Army a long time, and spent a couple of decades plus in uniform. Thank you, sir, for your service. And then really, Antonio, your continued service, because I know you've been working with the PAYS program as well for several years. So you're really one of the few people in this kind of Army human capital business that has worked with soldiers at the very beginning of the life cycle for the recruiting effort, and now kind of towards the end of the military life cycle as they transition back to the next into the next chapter or back to the civil society. So, Antonio, welcome. Glad you're here. Tell us a little bit about PAYS. For those who aren't up to date and really sure about what it is, how did it get started? What's it been doing the last decade or so?
Yeah, so first of all, thank you, Mr. Hurd, for having me. The PAYS team is very grateful for this opportunity. So when we talk about PAYS, Partnership for Your Success, this program started back in 2000. And over the past 23 years, it has always been a strategic initiative between the U.S. Army and a cross-section of businesses, corporations, and public sector agencies, all in an effort to offer employment opportunities to soldiers as they transition out of the Army. Now, when you talk about some of the recent developments that we've had with the program over the last 2 or 3 years, I think we're at the biggest milestone of this program's history, where we just recently created a database that allows all soldiers to register for PAYS. And, this was something that was a long time coming, because, we wanted to afford every soldier the opportunity to take advantage of this program.
So let me interrupt a little bit and make sure I've got that and everybody's got that. So for the last 20 years or so, PAYS has been, correct me if I'm wrong, but predominantly a tool to motivate young Americans to join our Army, knowing that there's a job interview on the other end. So mostly a recruiting tool. In fact, I think it was part of the recruiting effort, if I'm not mistaken, for a long time. Is that right?
Absolutely. PAYS was created in 2000 by U.S. Army Recruiting Command, and has been a recruiting incentive ever since then. And it still is today. But now we're doing our due diligence to make sure that we take care of soldiers on the back end as well.
So now, of course, the Army's gone back to what I think is the classic recruiting slogan. It's really not just a recruiting slogan. Be all you can be is a lifetime slogan. To recruit, certainly while you're in the service, you can be all you can be. You can push the envelope as far and as wide as possible. And now really post active duty, soldiers continue to be all they can be. So tell us about the transition of PAYS, if you would, from kind of the old recruiting centric PAYS to now. I think you said that everybody can sign up. Is that right?
That's correct, sir. So like I said, when PAYS started out in 2000, it was a recruiting incentive for initial term enlistees, which simply meant that if a soldier joined the Army and selected PAYS as an incentive, they had to use it if they got out after their first term. If they decided to re-enlist or continue their service, this incentive went away, and the soldier would not be able to use pays if he decided to get out after 10, 12, 13 years. And, because of that, a lot of soldiers were transitioning out of the Army without this incentive. And so we decided to make the change to the program. And what we did was we developed a new database for pays, and the registration link for that database is at the very top of our website. Soldiers can click on the link and follow the instructions to register for pays. And the registration process is just like registering for anything else. You put your name, email address, phone number in there. But the important part comes when an active duty soldier decides to ETS or retire. They log back into pays, and then they select up to 5 companies for a guaranteed job interview. Now, soldiers in the go ahead, sir.
That sounds like something I want to repeat again, because that's kind of a foot stomper. So the pays that many of us grew up with pretty much was a recruiting effort, and a soldier, after their first tour, if they signed up as a pays partner before they enlisted, could get an interview with specific companies. But now you're saying that any soldier, and incidentally, about 100,000 soldiers a year take off their uniform and put on civilian clothes. Active, Guard, and Reserve, retiring, ETSing, medical, you name it, 100,000 a year. So did I hear you right that all of those can, whether they're young or old, can sign up on the pays platform that we had up there a couple of minutes ago, and then they can get an interview with one of those pays partners out there?
That's absolutely correct. Every soldier, active, Guard, or Reserve, enlisted officer, warrant officer, initial term, midterm, career soldiers, every soldier currently in uniform today is now eligible for pays and can take advantage of up to 5 guaranteed job interviews when they transition.
So that's huge for a couple of angles. I'm looking at it from the other side, from the employer's perspective. So whereas, say, 5 years ago, they really had a pretty small number of soldiers in a small window of their life to get that interview, but now literally it's 100,000 of every make and model you can imagine. And I certainly know from talking to industry, and you do too, Antonio, the number one limiting factor of industry across America is really human capital, and to get those employers who can make things happen. And of course, the Army produces, as a side product, really, of our national defense and our constitutional rights and freedoms, we produce about 100,000 folks a year that can go back into the civilian sector. So let me ask you this: how does a company, how does a corporation, an industry, an employer get into the pays business? If they're listening and they say, wow, that's pretty good, I'd like to tap into some of that. How does that happen?
Yeah, so a company that's interested in partnering with the U.S. Army and pays can do so in several ways. One, they can go straight to our website at www.armypays.com and click on the Join the Partnership button, and they can enter themselves or their company's information, and it'll come to us as a lead. And one of the members of our team will get in contact with them and set up the necessary steps to begin the partnership. Another way is to contact us on our social media platforms. A company rep could walk into a local recruiting station or recruiting battalion and express their interest, and they can get in contact with us as well. So there's several different ways. They can contact me directly, if they're interested in the partnership. So
what social media platforms are you on?
So we're on LinkedIn, Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, Pinterest.
So pretty much all of them. They can go into the search bar and just type in Army Pays, and they'll be able to find it. And then they can say, so what kind of companies, what's the ideal company kind of look like or feel like or smell like, ideal for the employer and for the future employee, the soldier?
So I will tell you that, we don't have a cookie cutter type of company that partners with Pays. We actually have 1,081 active partners currently, and 100 of those are Fortune 500 companies. We have over 200 law enforcement agencies. We have city, county, and state governments. Some of the more recent partnerships we created is the Ford Motor Company and CarMax. Last year, the state of South Carolina, Boeing, Mercedes-Benz. But really what we're looking for is companies that want to hire veterans. I mean, that's the first step right there.
Wow.
If they want to hire veterans and, increase their employee pool with quality veteran talent, then I say let's have the conversation.
Well, that's a great byline. Companies that want to hire veterans. I can't imagine companies that do not want to hire veterans. There might be some out there. They're the ones that are going out of business, by the way. But that's okay. That's their stuff. So I do know one thing from a soldier's perspective. We realize that as they go through the transition assistance program process, which we spread out over the last 12 to 18 months, so they do a little bit kind of every month. And what we've learned is that many of the soldiers are going home. Kind of the younger the soldier, the more likely they're going home, regardless of where they are in uniform. A majority of soldiers want to go home. That was my case when I retired. So you mentioned several employers there. Some were very local, the local police department, the local county, but some, Ford and Mercedes. I think there's a Ford dealership and a Mercedes dealership in every hometown, right? And I'm pretty sure they all need employees of some type. So kind of talk to us maybe about the national footprint versus some of the local footprints.
Yeah, sure. So that's why, as a team, we pursue companies of all sizes and levels because, we want those big companies, the Fortune 500 companies, because they carry a brand recognition and they also have jobs in just about every state across the country. But then again, we also have those smaller companies that, because every town doesn't have, the skyscrapers and the Fortune 500 companies headquartered in their footprint, but they do have companies that, people work there and establish careers and, pay off homes and put their kids through college. And, they may not have that brand recognition and they may not have 2,000 employees, but they are still great companies that want to hire veterans and great career opportunities for transitioning soldiers. So, we look for companies of all sizes. Now, we do have a 250 employee minimum, but even that is, we'll take a look at exceptions on a case-by-case basis. I tell, my team members all the time, if it's going to be beneficial for that community and for soldiers that are transitioning out of the Army back into those communities, to make that smaller company a partner with the Army and with Pays, then let's do it.
So let's look at it from a soldier's perspective. So I'm going to say it again because it's such a huge paradigm shift from old Pays, which is really for a fairly small number of folks as they enlist, to what I'm calling new Pays, and I hope that's okay. But the one that we've got now, where everybody. So how does a soldier who's about to transition, maybe retire, maybe ETS, maybe demob, and they say, you know what, I'm going to look into this Pays thing. Do they need to get somebody's permission? Does a company commander have to sign off, or do they have to pass a test or anything like that? How do they do it?
Yeah, none of that, sir. So all soldiers, and we're encouraging all soldiers to register for Pays now, like today. We want you to go on our website, click the registration link, and just register for Pays. That way we get you in the database. And when you make that decision to ETS or demob or retire, then you can come back in and select companies that you would like to interview and possibly get employed by. And that's why we set it up that way, because once a soldier is at that point of transition, whether it's ETS or retire, they have a much better idea of what they want to do and where they want to go. So choosing the companies to interview with, inside of that 24-month window is not only beneficial to the transitioning soldier, but it's also beneficial to the employer, because now when that transition soldier chooses that company, that employer knows that, hey, this young man or woman is transitioning out of the Army inside of 18 to 24 months, and a line of communication can be established immediately.
So let me kind of drive that nail a little bit. You said 18 to 24 months. So let's say that a soldier signs up today, and that gives them a lot of time, maybe years and years and years, depending on how long until they transition, to kind of look through the list. Now, your list of employers, are they broken down by region or state or just alphabetically? How is that organized?
Yeah, they're broken down by state. They're in there alphabetically as well. So a soldier can look just alphabetically at the list, or they can say, I want to look at PAYS partners that have jobs available in Michigan. And it'll, so that there's different ways to query the search.
Okay. So we go back again. Most soldiers are going home. So they pull up their home state, let's say Michigan, and then there's a list of a bunch of employers in Michigan. So they can kind of think about that and do some research and see which ones they like. And then they get to pick, how many did you say?
Up to 5 companies for a guarantee.
5 companies in their home state of Michigan, in this example, for an interview. So, we have kind of a tagline in the TAP business, and I want you to tell me if it applies to you as well. We tell soldiers to go early and go often. Go to TAP early on in the process. Don't wait until 2 weeks before your DD 214. About a year and a half, and then have several milestones throughout that year and a half. And really that allows soldiers to get their head around it and to let all that information kind of sink in. Does that concept, go early and go often, does that make sense with PAYS also?
Absolutely, because when you really think about it, when the time comes for you to select those companies, you want to have a really good idea of where you want to go and the type of work you want to do as a civilian. And that's something you may not know at the 24 mark. You may not know that at the 24-month mark or even the 18-month mark. So the earlier you go to TAP, the better, because the TAP counselors are there to assist. I know for myself, and not to get into my own story, but I didn't have a resume until I went to that TAP workshop, and that was something that I stressed out about leading up to that. And coming out of that 5-day workshop, I was relieved because that TAP office took care of me. And so that's why we highly recommend soldiers to go to TAP and keep PAYS in mind, knowing that when the time comes, they'll be able to select up to 5 companies for that guaranteed interview.
And I guess another advantage of starting the whole process early, to include PAYS, is that if you identify the 5 companies you really like back in your home state early enough, then you've got some time to kind of customize each interview, because I think, and I'll ask you to tell me if I'm wrong, but you might interview differently for different companies in different fields and different industries. So it's not kind of a one size fits all. You dress differently, you speak differently, and you got to do a little homework ahead of time. Is that right?
Yeah, that's absolutely right. And I will tell you that, I recently learned that I think there was a study done that said less than 65% or more than 65% of soldiers that transition out of the Army are not employed in the career field that they served in the Army. Mm-hmm. So, a soldier, could apply for a job with the company that aligns with the MOS that they have. But, this could be a senior non-commissioned officer and they could apply for a different company that's just in management, so it's important to have, your resume easily tailored to different types of jobs that you may qualify for.
Yeah, you just brought up a great point. I'd like to encourage our companies on the line today to listen and hear that again. Most soldiers do not continue in their military skill while they're civilians. And they do that for a couple of reasons. In many cases, the skill doesn't exist. Okay. There are very few civilian cannoneers or machine gunners, thank goodness. But in a lot of cases, the soldiers simply say to themselves, I had fun. I love doing it in the Army. It was a great time for a couple of years, but I want to do something else, and that's fine too. So, uh, a lot of industries come to us saying we're looking for a specific MOS. I want to hire a bunch of 25 Charlies or a bunch of 81, or you name the MOS, and we always try to say, you know what? Don't worry too much about the skill set. Worry about the attributes, and they can probably learn the skill set, whatever it might be. Does that sound true from your pays perspective?
It absolutely does. I mean, it sounds exactly like one of the slides presentation, and that's what we talk about is the skill sets that soldiers bring to the table. We talk about the Army values and knowing that a transitioning soldier is going to have a strong work ethic and discipline and the ability to work with the team. And in some cases, companies are providing all of the training for the job anyway. So, the MOS that they had in the Army, it kind of doesn't matter as much.
So I'm just trying to think of if there's a good reason why somebody would not sign up with Pays and at least look at the companies or the industries in his or her preferred region or area. Is there a decent is there a group of soldiers who don't even need this and shouldn't even waste their time with it?
Not that I know of, sir. I mean, this is a win-win opportunity for everyone involved. And even if it's just to register, just to see what opportunities are out there, or just to go on a couple of interviews, even if you may already know who you're going to work for when you transition out of the Army. Uh, Going on a couple of interviews has never hurt anyone.
Yeah. And again, it doesn't cost anything. There's not a lot of paperwork. You don't have to get your commander's, signature or anything like that. How long does it take to sign up? Is this like a 45-minute process or is it pretty quick?
Oh no, it takes about 5 minutes to register for Pays. And then, at the time of transition, you go back in there and start looking at the companies and figure out who you want to interview with.
Okay. So do you have to sign up before they transition while they're still in uniform, or is there some window? How flexible is that?
Yeah, so it's very flexible. I mean, a soldier could sign up during their 5-day workshop at TAP, but we're encouraging soldiers to sign up today because we want to increase the awareness of Pays. We want you to know about Pays in year 3 of your Army career, even if you end up doing 20. We don't want you to find out about it in your last 18 months. So that's why we're encouraging soldiers to sign up today and then go back in and select your companies when you're ready to transition.
I think that's a great idea, and I wish this had existed when I was going through the retirement process, and frankly, when all my soldiers were going through the retirement process, because I know a lot of folks, it's high stress, and
Yes.
and to be able to say, man, I've got 5 interviews in my hometown in companies that I've had time to research and prepare and kind of get smart on, boy, that'd reduce a lot of stress.
Absolutely. And it does, I mean, you just think about it, the average soldier that's hitting retirement at, time in service and age, they're married, families, possibly earning a 6-figure salary through the Army. And that's hard to walk away from if you don't know what's on the other side of that door.
Sure.
And so Pays kind of helps ease that stress, knowing that you have 5 guaranteed interviews. All you have to do is tailor your resume and get some interview prep, and then I think you're going to be successful.
That's great. I tell you, this is a good news, and I really appreciate, Anthony, your time today, but even more so, wrestling this Pays into an area where it can help every single soldier, right? Every single soldier can benefit from the Pays process, which means that the industries out there that are smart enough to sign up with you have access to everybody who wears a uniform. That's huge, and they're desperate for that, and that's great. And you said it's pretty easy, pretty painless, doesn't cost any money, so there's really no negative. And I guess you can probably do it right here on your phone that everybody's got in their pocket in, like you said, 5 minutes or so. That's exciting, and like kind of like the TAP process and life for that matter, you start this thing early and you start thinking about it and studying, and you change your options and maybe you adjust a little bit left and right. adjust industries or adjust geography, so that when you're ready, then you can really make a smart decision. That's good to know for everybody who wears that uniform. That's awesome. So, Anthony, you got us here for another couple of minutes. What are the 2 or 3 takeaways that you'd like soldiers to know who are listening and watching today, leaders, military leaders, and also industry? What are the 2 or 3 things that you think we really need to pay attention to?
Yeah. So first of all, here at the PACE program, we believe that every soldier deserves a successful transition to the civilian workforce, and we're working diligently to help provide that success. For employers out there, this is a free program. Doesn't cost you and your organization a dime. It's a direct partnership with the United States Army. And for leaders out there, this is another tool in your toolkit to help take care of soldiers. Because, for those of us who are transitioning out of the Army, know sometimes, when it's time to transition out, you're the only one doing it. Everybody else is in uniform. And so having the knowledge of this program can better assist you in helping take care of your soldiers. And for the soldiers out there who are in transition or thinking about transition, this is not a program to entice you to, leave military service early, but we just want you to know that we have something in place to take care of you when that decision happens, because we all know everyone takes the uniform off at some time.
Boy, you hit the nail on the head. Again, Antonio is one of the few people. Everybody in the Army does 2 things. We all go in and we all go out.
Right.
Everything in the middle is different. You may or may not get promoted and medals and reassignments and all that stuff, but you take the uniform, you put it on, and you take it off. And you're really one of the few folks that have had, you've been involved in both of those. Thank you so much for both of those efforts. Most recently, for PAYS for everybody. Helps industry, helps America, helps soldiers, and man, that's great. So industry folks out there, sign up. Soldiers, sign up. It's a no-brainer. Doesn't take a lot of time, and you can help make that connection. For the industry folks on the line today, I don't know if you all know this, but Army veterans are employed at a higher rate than non-veterans. They've got a higher education level on average than non-veterans, a higher health and fitness level on average than non-veterans, a lower discipline and legal amount of pain than non-veterans. And then they also stay with employers longer on average than non-veterans. So I think those are all things that industry is looking for. It's certainly all the things that the Army is looking for, which is why we recruit them to join our great Army and keep our freedoms within hand. So thank you for them. And those of you who are in uniform still, thank you for your service. Sign up. No brainer. No money, very little time. It's all good. Hey, listen, thank everybody for coming. This is our second Tap Talk. I'm pretty excited about it. The last one was great. I think this one is awesome. We're going to have our third in about a month, about mid-September, and we're really excited about that as well. So, Antonio, we can reach out to your PAYS webpage. Just get on Google PAYS, Army PAYS, any of the social media things out there. There's the webpage for everybody to look at. Soldiers sign up immediately. Just takes a few minutes. Industry sign up. Doesn't take very long. This is great stuff.
Thanks again, sir. I appreciate the opportunity.
We're honored to have you on the air. We're honored to talk about this important topic. And again, really appreciate everybody calling in today. And we'll see you in about a month.
Thank you for tuning in to our second episode of Tap Talk. Our hope is that this show can provide valuable guidance and support as you navigate through your transition process. If you have any specific questions, please don't hesitate to reach out to your local TAP Center for assistance. Our mission at the Transition Assistance Program is to provide you with the tools and skills you need to be all you can be for a lifetime.